Alright. A company called Topaz Labs, which are the creators of this piece of software, gave this piece of software to me to review. Now, I didn't pay anything for the software, but they left it completely up to me to review it however I see fit. So even though I have received the software free of charge, I'm under no obligation to say, look how good the software is, or nothing like that. So trust me, trust my opinion, that's all I'm saying. Alright, now what this piece of software is, it's called Video Enhance AI. And what it does, it essentially, you can take low quality video and make it better quality. Or you can take like regular video and then make it slow motion, but make it real smooth and fluent. I mean, they're showing some examples of what it looks like up here. Like that's regular video, and then they slowed it down. And then that video looked bad, and then they made it look better. Alright, now let me go ahead and close this. By the way, I will put a link to this in the description of the video. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that, so it doesn't matter if you click on that link or go to the website yourself. I don't make no money on it, which is fine with me. Alright, let me go ahead and close this. And right now I have the program opened. And first thing I'm going to do is go into preferences. And whenever I go into preferences, you can select whether you want to use your CPU or which GPU or all GPUs. Now, I have had mixed results with all GPUs, because the implication is you'll be able to have your GPUs work together and make your process quicker. Sometimes I have had it about 25 to 30% quicker than with running just one GPU, but most of the time it works just as well if you just choose your most powerful GPU that you have, assuming you have more than one. But even if you only have one in your system, that's fine, it works just fine. Now, I have tried this program with like an RTX 2060 Super, and it works almost as good as like the RTX 3060. And there's not much difference between the RTX 3060 and the RTX 3070 in this program. One of the things though you got to keep in mind, it also uses the CPU even if you're just using the GPU. So if you have a really slow CPU, it's probably going to bottleneck your GPU in this program. Alright, but I'm going to go ahead and choose the 3070 since that's my fastest. And as far as my CPU goes, I am using a Ryzen 3900X, which is a 12 core 24 thread GPU or CPU, and I have an all-core overclock set to 4 GHz, which is an extremely mild all-core overclock. Alright, let me go ahead and close this. And also, this is another thing, I have never seen a difference whether this is set to low or set to high. I don't think it, I would imagine this probably doesn't make that big of a difference unless you're using a GPU with a low amount of VRAM, whereas the 3070 and the 3060 that I have is 8 gig or 12 gig. But if you're using like an older GPU that has, you know, 4 gigs or 2 gigs, then this may come into play, but it hasn't made any difference that I can tell. So I just keep it up as high as it goes. And then right here you can choose a custom output folder or click on source. Generally I just keep it on source. That way whatever directory your input file is in, the output goes to the same location. Good enough. Alright. Now, I'm going to add one of my old renders to it. Now, these are going to be from 2016. I have them organized. So some of these are not the best quality. But we'll go by that, you know. I'm going to use this one because I kind of like this one. This was one of my first attempts at motion tracking or camera tracking. And of course, it's not all that great, but it's not that bad. You can see a little bit of defects every once in a while. But the video itself is only like, was it 15 seconds long? Now, I'm going to add that program, or that, not that program, that video to this program, to Video Enhance AI, and then over here you have some choices. Do I want to increase the quality? Well, the quality's not that bad. You know, I could do a little bit of denoiser to it, but I would consider this high quality, so I would probably use this one for to output it in terms, or to try to get rid of some of the noise if I wanted to, because it does have a little bit of noise in it from the camera itself. And I can choose to output it at 1080p, which is the same resolution as the input, or I can bump it up to 4K. Now I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to 4K, and also down here you can select your compression rate for the output video. Personally, I keep it on 10. Now the output size of this is going to be significantly larger in most cases than what you put into it. But once you take it out of here, you can put it into Handbrake or something like that, and then compress it the way you would prefer it, because Handbrake has better controls on it for in terms of video codec, the output format, and so forth. Alright, now it also has the keep audio button. Generally I just keep it on because it doesn't matter if the video has audio or not. If you don't want to use it, just cut the audio out in post-processing. So just leave it on. It'll save you some headache later if you accidentally meant to keep audio, and then for some reason you know, had this turned off and then your video came out without audio, which of course you could fix in post anyway, as long as you had the original. So it's kind of beside the point. Alright, but I'm just going to basically upscale this and denoise it to a degree from 1080p to 4K. I'm going to go ahead and press start. Right now it's loading the kernels, and you don't see much difference, and that's partially because the video quality wasn't that bad to begin with. But you can see how quick it's going through it. And let me put this on split view, and this is the output, this is the input. Tell you the truth, I can't see much difference. You can a little bit right there, like on the letters of this box. It's a little bit sharper coming out. It's a little bit more fuzzy going in. And that's partially, or the biggest reason why you don't see much of a difference is because the input video is decent quality. But I'm going to go ahead and let this run the rest of the way through. I'm going to put this on single view, and right now it's only, you're only seeing the output. And it's set to zoom to fit. But you can see down here it's taken just over 1/3 of a second per a frame, which isn't terrible. Now let me bring up GPU-Z, and I am using the 3070 for this, and you can see it's pulling 130 to 180 watts it bounces around quite a bit, but I think it's probably averaging about 140 watts, maybe 150 watts. Of course, this GPU I have the Gigabyte RTX 3070. You can see even at those power levels, the temperatures are really nice. Alright, it should be done in about 2 minutes. Well, probably less than 2 minutes actually. Looks like it's going to be more like 30 seconds. Now again, you will not see that huge of a difference. Realistically, the upscaling, in my opinion, it works best, or you see the most gain whenever you're upscaling like a DVD movie, especially an old movie or an old TV series. But when it comes to stuff like this, there's a different reason why it comes in handy. Alright, now let me bring us back over here. Here's the one that came out of it. Click on properties, details, 3840, 2160, basically 4K, 30 frames. Everything's the same except it's 4K. And again, it doesn't look a whole lot different. Barely any difference at all, but that's because the input was still good quality. Now I'll go ahead and delete this. Alright, now let's try something a little bit different. This right here is well, I'm not going to work with glass because glass has a little bit of an issue every once in a while. I'll just go with the same video, might as well. Alright, but instead of trying to enhance it, I'm going to go to the chrono function. And this right here gives you the option to convert, like if this right here is a 30 frame per second video, you can convert it to 60, 50, 120, whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and set it to, well, let's say 120 frames per second. Now it's still gonna, the video is still gonna be like, let me see what the let me look at the properties one more time. Yeah, it's 14 seconds long. The video is still going to be 14 seconds long, but there's going to be frames built in between it, and it's not just you know, 3 duplicate frames between each frame. It actually uses artificial intelligence to guess where or what the frame would actually look like if it was actually recorded at 120 frames per second. So let me go ahead and click start, and you'll see what I mean. Now if you watch over here on this side, the you can see it moving 1 frame at a time, but if you look on this side, it's moving in smaller increments, right? This is the original, this is the output. I think this right here is the absolutely the coolest thing about this software, because essentially you can input something that was rendered, you know, suppose you rendered 450 frames, which is basically what this is, 450 frame animation, but this is going to output it in terms of as if it was 1800 frames, or just under 1800 frames, 1700 frames, something like that. So that's significant, especially if, let's just assume for a second that this scene in Blender took 30 seconds per frame to render. Well, you spend 30 seconds for 450 frames, or 30 seconds times 450 frames, and that's how long it took to render. but then you can all of a sudden generate all these in-between frames. Of course, it doesn't do a perfect job. As you can look right here, if you look at the specularity of it, there's obviously some little flickering going on, because that's probably going to affect the output, because it's kind of hard to generate proper reflections and stuff like that, especially being that these individual frames that were rendered, they have an HDRI that's reflecting light onto these, wherein the individual in-between frames, the duller looking ones, it's trying to guess what the reflection would look like based on these frames. But it's generating 3 extra frames for each frame over here. So it's definitely not going to be perfect. But whenever it's put together and running 120 frames per second, it's probably going to look relatively seamless to a degree. Although you won't be able to see exactly how seamless it looks, because quite frankly my screen capture is only recording at 30 frames per second. Alright, now I'm not going to go ahead and wait through all this, because it's going to take another about 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Alright, and now I'm going to open it up. This is the, let me do this so that it continues to play. Alright, go to options, play next, rewind current file. That's what I want. That way it just plays over and over, I thought. Okay, that's what I need. Let's repeat forever. Alright, now it should just repeat over and over. And as you can see, the difference in specularity that we saw while it was being generated, I don't see it here. There's enough frames in there so that what I see from my perspective, and you probably won't see it very well, being that the screen capture is only recording 30 frames per second, but this is actually playing 120 frames per second, and my monitors right now are set to 120 frames per second. So this looks really, really, really smooth. And quite frankly, if I was to, and again, you won't be able to see it very well, you probably won't be able to see it at all on the video from that you're seeing on YouTube, but this right here is very, very smooth compared to this one. This is the original. Yeah, there's a significant difference in the way they look in terms of how smooth. Now, does that mean that it will always do a good job? No, not really. There are times where it doesn't do a good job. Now, let me see here. Let me find another one that's let me find one that's short. That one's 2 seconds. Which one's 2 seconds? I don't remember ever making a 2 second long animation. Oh, that's that. Duh. That was generated today. Alright, let me, this one's 5 seconds long. Let's see which one. Alright, this is probably a good, I think this one's only 720p also, which would probably work good. Details, no, that's 1080. Let me find one that's actually less than 1080. Let me see if dimensions don't work. Probably width. Okay, I guess Windows doesn't want to cooperate. Alright, so we'll just kind of pick one here. I know this is a short one. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. This is a cloth simulation. Go ahead and bring this cloth over. Now let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. It's just that very simple. Alright, let me see what, I think this is the one that was yeah, this is 1080p also. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, just so that we can get a good baseline of this. I'm going to go ahead and clear all these, and this is kind of a silly way to go about this, but I'm going to go ahead and drag this same cloth file in here, or cloth simulation in here. But the difference is I'm going to downscale this in another program. I'm going to set it down to kind of a low amount. I'll set it to the same resolution as what you see coming out of DVDs. Not Blu-rays, but DVDs. Alright, now I'm going to, so I don't lose too much detail, because I think DVDs, this is equivalent to about the compression ratio of DVDs. Alright, now let me set an output. Whoops, wrong one. I'm just going to stick it here. Add, start. Alright, it's good enough. Already finished. Where did that output? Okay, just Blender output. Thought I was, that's not it. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, there I am. Having a brain fart of a day, apparently. Alright, this is 480p, and it's the same file, just 480p, but it's high quality. So, move this over here out of the way, get rid of that, bring this over. Now, I'm going to set this to medium quality, because I think that's medium quality, and I'm going to upscale it to full HD. Now, this is kind of a ridiculously silly way to go about it, because I mean, quite frankly, I downscaled a video just so I could upscale a video. So this kind of a silly example, but I just want to show you that I can literally downscale a video and lose 75% of the information in the video, and then upscale it, and then have the output of this AI recapture some of that detail. Alright, this is the downscaled one, and this is the re-upscaled one. Alright, now I'm going full screen, and that, see the detail in it? It's just fine. And that's after, you know, downscaling it to 480p, which is less than half the resolution of this monitor, and yet it looks fine. Alright, now let me do this. Let me find the original. Alright, this right here is the original 1080p. I tell you what, I'm going to do it this way. Have them overlap just a little bit. It doesn't matter. Now, can you tell which one is which? I can't. In some ways. Well, I actually can, just a hair. This one, it's just ever so slightly softer. The cloth is, you know, like if you look at the grain of the cloth over here, it's just barely more refined than this. And keep in mind, this one came from this, but this was downsized to 480p and then upscaled using Video Enhanced AI to back to 1080p, and it still looks fine. My point is, if the original was 480p, you could upscale it and it's going to look better than the original. Alright, let me go ahead and close these. Now let me explain some of these options over here. Now, I will say, you have these three right here, the dione or whatever they want to call it. These three right here should only be used if your input video is interlaced. And if you know what interlaced is, it's basically where, like, if your video is 24 frames per second, there's actually 48 frames per second being displayed. But they do it by scan lines, because this is back interlaced videos from the old analog days of video encoding. And what they would have is one frame would have every other scan line going horizontally displayed, and then the next frame would be the opposite scan lines. But whenever they played at twice the frame rate of normal of what the actual video played, then it looked normal. It tricked the eyes. But it was a way to get around the lack of processing power from back in the day. But that interlaced frames looks like junk played on a modern monitor or TV, because of the difference in how analog TVs versus the modern digital TVs and monitors look. So these are deinterlacing options, or the ones with the D-I-O-N-E. Now, I have found that these do not work very well. Now, don't get me wrong, the deinterlacing portion by itself works fine, except there is a bit of a problem. Let me, I wish I still had, yeah, I don't have, I thought I was thinking I had a old file from an interlaced DVD that I fixed, and I could use an example. But let me first say, I don't recommend using these for it all. Personally, I ignore these three options, because if you use this to deinterlace a video, then it causes jello artifacts in the output, because it's trying to deinterlace and enhance the video all at the same time. Wherein I think they should do it in two different steps. It should deinterlace and then apply the AI to it. But it's trying to do it all at once, and it's causing jello artifacts. Let me see. I'm on the other computer screen right now. Let me see if I have an example. Let me go to one of my external drives. See if I end up deleting them. But if you have interlaced video, which for the most part, there's very little interlaced video anymore, except on maybe old DVDs. But if you do have interlaced videos, and let me do a search real quick, so just in case you're not familiar with what interlaced video looks like. Alright, now these are pretty accurate. This is what interlaced video looks like. Now you don't notice it too much on an analog TV because analog TVs play interlaced video for the most part just fine. But when it comes to digital TVs and monitors, it doesn't. It looks like this. Not with a still image, but when there's motion to the camera side to side, the interlaced frames become out of sync with each other, because basically one set of lines, or every other line, is every other frame. So if you have lateral movement, then those frames are not in sync with each other. But if you have interlaced video and you want to enhance that, I would not use these. These algorithms need some work. What I would do, and I've tried it several different ways, I would use Handbrake. Now Handbrake is a freeware. You can input a video into Handbrake. Let me add a video here. Now this isn't going to be an interlaced video, but I need to add something in order to show you the settings. Now in Handbrake you have interlace detection. You can turn that to default, and then deinterlace, put it on decomb, and that will take care of your problem. This will perfectly deinterlace your videos, and then you just set the output quality, the constant quality, to something low like 10, or something. A lower number is a higher quality, something with a low compression rate, something like 10, and then you output it, and then the output of Handbrake is what you will put in this, because Handbrake does a better job at deinterlacing than these do, or at least it does on like the 2 TV shows on DVD that I have tried so far, and that is for a TV show from the early, it may be from the late 80s, early 90s, called Forever Night. I'm not really into that TV show. My brother kind of likes it, and also on I tried it on Highlander, the TV series. And if I just use, because the video that comes off the DVDs is interlaced, and if I try to put it directly into here, it has this weird jello artifact. But if I put it through Handbrake first and use Handbrake to do the deinterlacing, and then I put it in here under medium quality, then it works perfectly. Now I will also say this: with newer movies and so forth, and single audio stream video files, you don't have this issue. But on like older DVDs, like with Highlander and even Forever Night, and I think it's just because, you know, times change and the way they encode stuff has changed. If like Highlander, it has stereo and 5.1 surround sound, but for some reason, if you don't turn off 5.1 surround sound before putting it, like if you're ripping it from the DVD and you don't tell it not to rip the 5.1 surround sound, then it will sometimes output it without audio. I don't have a clue why it does that, but I've only seen it or experienced it with old DVD files. So I don't really understand exactly why. Alright, now one more thing, because realistically this one, which you got a lot of customized settings for, and I have found that this actually works pretty good. Basically, you move your video file to somewhere in the video. And then whenever you get to that point, you can click auto, and it will go through and, based on the information in this video frame, it will adjust these settings to what it thinks would be best, and then you can output it and it works pretty good to enhance it. Or you can use these presets. Realistically, for most things, it's like DVDs, it's low quality or medium quality. Most of the time medium quality. If it's something modern, then it's high quality. Because this high quality and low quality, medium quality doesn't have to do with the output. It has to do with how good the quality of the input video is. Alright, now I'm going to show you one more thing about this Chronos. And this is like the slow motion or frame interpolation, where you can turn it from 30 frames to 60 frames or 120 frames. But suppose I wanted to keep this 30 frames per second, but I wanted to run 1/3 the speed. Let me go 1/4 the speed. Alright, let me bring that original file up so I can give you an example. Now, right now this is running 1/4 the speed, but you can see it's kind of jittery because it's still it's essentially only playing at 7.5 frames per second, because it's 30 frames per second whenever it's running at full speed, 30 frames per second, and then half speed is 15 frames per second, and then half of that is 7.5 frames per second. But if you wanted this to be really silky smooth but be slow, how you go about that is keep this set to whatever the actual frame rate of the video is, of the input video, but then adjust this to like 400% slow motion, which means it's still going to generate 3 frames between each frame, except it's going to output it at 30 frames per second, which means the playback speed is going to be 4 times slower, but it's going to be extremely smooth. Now I'm going to let this go ahead and play all the way through, and let me open this up one more time. I'm going to go ahead and put this on so we can compare it to this one. Alright, about halfway finished. And the only thing this is doing right now is basically just slowing down the video, turning it into a slow motion video, which this has really nice real world benefits. Like if you recorded something interesting but you want to play it back at slow motion, this right here is how you go about it, and it fills in the gaps so it's not jerky and it plays nice and silky smooth. Alright, now where'd my output go to? Well, that's weird. Alright. Now I should have put the output right here. I don't know why it didn't. That doesn't make no sense to me. Alright, let me see if somehow it changed the output location. I'm probably having a brain fart, you know, because I'm getting old. It should have put it right back in the original. So, let me see here. Let me click refresh. I'm on the other screen over here. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to put this file on a solid state drive, and I'm going to remove this one. Now I'm going to add it from a solid state drive and keep the settings the same, output it once more, because maybe I just got, yeah, alright, now it's showing up where it's supposed to be. Of course, I'm over here working on the other screen I was. Here's the original that I put in it, and here's the output. Of course, it's still encoding, but I want to let it go ahead and play through this, or go through the process, and then after this gets done, I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll call it quits, because this is getting kind of long. And I'm sure very few people has stuck with me this long, considering I'm not reading the script. I'm just, you know, flapping my jaws talking about this program in a non-scientific way. But as far as this program goes, I think it's a good program, but I think it has a few issues, like that deinterlacing issue, which I wish I had like an old DVD file handy that I could use to show you, but I ended up deleting them all. I wasn't thinking about it whenever I deleted them. Like I said, the program works halfway decent. It's kind of an expensive program. It's like $300. In my case, it would probably be worth it, just because I have a lot of old TV shows that I would like to enhance. Basically, now in my case, you know, most monitors, most TVs are 1080p. So I'm taking my DVDs, which are generally 480p, and I'm using Video Enhance AI to upscale it to 1080p, and then I'm using Handbrake to basically bring it down to 540. And the biggest reason why I'm doing that is because it saves a lot of disk space by bringing it back down to 540, and to tell you the truth, it looks identical to 1080p on the TV when you're sitting far enough back from it. Now, when it comes to on a computer monitor like this, you can kind of slightly, ever so slightly, tell the difference, but it uses like way less disk space. And with the amount of TV shows and stuff I have, yeah, I gotta save disk space. But the output, basically, once I have this output it from this and then go through Handbrake to bring it down to 540p, the 540p version versus the original on the DVD, the 540p looks significantly better. It's not, I'm not even exaggerating, it's significantly better. Alright. It must have glitched before, because it's running slower now than it was before. I think it was glitching. Of course, now I think it's working perfectly like it's supposed to now. Now the people who make this program, Topaz Labs, they also make similar programs for like editing pictures and so forth. Not so much editing, but upscaling pictures and getting rid of some of the noise and fixing some details and stuff. And they're in images. Let me show you those programs. Products. Now, Gigapixel AI is the only other one that I have tried, but I've only tried the trial version. I haven't actually tried the full-blown version. But back when I tried the trial version, it basically was essentially the full-blown version, but it deactivated after like 30 days or something like that. And to tell you the truth, I like Gigapixel AI. It worked really nice for fixing old images, making them look better. I have not tried Sharpen AI or Denoise AI, but my gut instinct is these are all probably pretty good. This one I like. I'm actually very tempted. I may end up buying this one just because it works really nice, especially for, I mean, when you take a low resolution image and you can upscale it and make it turn it into a high resolution image and bring back some of the original detail. This works great. That program does. It's basically like this, except it's the image version of it. Alright, we're almost done. Got about another 45 seconds remaining. Go ahead and bring this back up so we can play these side by side and you can see what the difference is. Now over here, let me put this on this side, it would make more sense. This is the original, and then when this gets done I'll be able to open up the output it file. Should be done in about 10 seconds. And keep in mind, this time what we're doing is just slowing it down. That's it. Slowing it down by 4x or 400%. Alright, now let me scale this so that it's basically the same size. And see, this is the difference. They're both playing essentially the same speed, except look how much smoother this is compared to this. This is jumpy and jittery, and this is silky smooth. The chrono is one of the best features about this program. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to put a link to this website in the description of this video, and go ahead and check it out. You can download all of these as a trial and you can try it out. Now I believe all of these, I put a watermark on it now. Originally I don't think they was putting a watermark on it. They just the program just deactivated after like 30 days, but now the trial portion works forever. It just puts a watermark on it, but it's a big watermark. It's right in the middle of the video and right in the middle of the image. So, but go ahead and try it out. See if you like it. See if your hardware can run it. I tried Video Enhance AI on my laptop, and my laptop, it has a Ryzen it's a 5500U mobile CPU, and it worked halfway decent. It has the built-in Radeon graphics. It's not a discrete graphics card, and it worked just fine. It was just slow. It would take about 10 hours to run like a DVD movie through video enhanced AI to upscale it to 1080p. But that's what I would expect, whereas my computer takes about 3 hours for a DVD. Alright, so guess that's it. Have any questions? Leave a comment. Later, people.